Right now we have signed 1.8 billion euros macro-financial assistance program to the Ukraine, which is basically medium-term loans. And the conditionality for the loans has been described in the memorandum of understanding. Basically, it includes conditions in terms of public finance governance, improving the transparency of public finances, including transparency of public procurement procedures, strengthening the system of audit. It includes anti-corruption conditionality as regards the beginning of the work of anti-corruption bureau. It includes some conditionality on competition policy, also in line with a deep and comprehensive free trade agreement, which is about to enter in force as of January 1st next year. So it's basically about structural reforms which Ukraine is undertaking, and I would say this conditions of memorandum of understanding are broadly in line with Ukraine's government's own priority.
How much is it conditional?
Well, yes, this 1.8 billion euros package is divided in three tranches, and we hope to release the first tranche really soon, already in the first half of the year. But for this, we hope for a speedy ratification of memorandum of understanding in Ukrainian Parliament. As regards next two tranches, they are foreseen for the end of this year and beginning of next year. And yes, they are linked with the implementation of program conditionality and also to the IMF program, because this macro-financial assistance program is part of the bigger package of $25 billion package, which is provided IMF together with a number of bilateral lenders, including EU. So we also must be sure that this package is well on track.
What, in your opinion, keeps the European investors being more actively engaged in Ukrainian economy? How much is it for war? How much is it for any other reasons?
Well, certainly this security situation, conflict in eastern Ukraine is a big concern for investors. There's no doubt about this. But also, of course, Ukraine has structural problems predating this conflict, actually, which are there accumulated for the last more than two decades. So while discussing the possibility to attract more investment, it's very important to tackle areas like business environment, which is business friendly and predictable, to reduce administrative burden, number of different licenses and permits. It's important to tackle corruption, once again to provide more certainty to the investors which decide to come in Ukrainian economy.
How do you assess the speed, let's say, of Ukrainian government? Maybe there's a difference on how the parliament works and the government works and the administration. So my question would be, how quick everything is happening in terms of I don't know, in terms of reforms?
Well, certainly we see that this new government is working much more intensively on reforms than we had seen before. Of course, it's always so that you can wish for more and expect speedier progress, but in any case, I would say there is quite substantial progress already. But of course, lots of things remain to be done. And now, when there are already a number of legislative places in change, what will be important also to see the practical implementation and how it's, so to say, being implemented on ground.
Do you have any assessment when Ukraine can exit the recession currently?
It will depend to the large extent of the development of security situation. If there is a normalization of situation in eastern Ukraine, it can happen quite quickly. Actually, already now we are seeing some signs of stabilization of Ukrainian economy. On contrary, if there is going to be further escalation, of course it will negatively also affect Ukrainians' economical prospects. So it's very much linked with security situation. That's why also EU is putting lots of emphasis on full implementation of Minsk agreements and on work towards solution as regards situation in eastern Ukraine, a solution which is respecting sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine.
Is there a plan B for European Union if there is an escalation in eastern Ukraine, and what is actually the margin, the red line, where the situation could be regarded as real escalation?
What we see as a base scenario is implementation of Minsk agreements. So if we see that there are continuous tensions in eastern Ukraine, we see that actually there are difficulties in implementing those agreements, and we are putting lots of emphasis on all sides in a conflict that it's very important to implement those agreements. And so there's lots of diplomatic effort from the EU, also from other international community to ensure that these Minsk agreements hold.
But it's already violated.
Certainly, exactly. We are seeing that there are continuous tensions, so that's why we continue this effort actually to ensure full compliance with Minsk agreements.